Why do you think it was okay for you to make the assumption and speculate that Kurt Cobain was trans when he was unable to respond to the allegation? Did you not think that that was disrespectful for you to assume, but yet be so adamant how other people should assume your gender?
I fully stand by that video.
This is a real problem as well that I'm glad we're getting into. It's a good thing that we're talking about this and that she fully stands by it, by the way. Well, it's not a good thing. But for me it is, because I've been defending her way too much in this video. I'm going to alienate a lot of new viewers, maybe disappoint the ones who have already come to be fair, if you've a consistent viewer, you know me by now. You probably knew this was coming. But like, yeah, this is some good old-fashioned Lilly flaming right here that's about to happen, because that video...
Here's the thing. I vehemently disagree about this. And, you know, I'm coming at this as a person who is an elder millennial. I remember when Kurt Cobain was alive, right? You know, so I spend a fuck ton of time where he was born and raised, and I'm, you know, in the, like, yeah. So, you know, from that perspective, and also from the trend. So we're gonna go through. I'm gonna let them kind of lay out their pieces here. But like, this was the thing that I was like, I need to talk about this because this really, like, this bothered me. So let's get into it.
Video was, oh boy, it was a bad video.
Kurt Cobain has been gone for 30 years. Kurt Cobain cannot hear us. No matter what we say about Kurt Cobain's gone. Been gone.
But does that make it okay to speculate that they may or may not have been trans?
No, first of all, Kurt Cobain has family that are still alive and are very likely to have seen that video of you telling millions of people that they were probably trans. You know, Kurt Cobain's daughter is very real and very much alive and very much married to Tony Hawk's son, who they have a child with. What a fucking cool kid that's gonna be, by the way.
I would never speculate about an alive person being trans, because that can impact that person's life if they don't want to come out, they're not ready to come out, or if they're not trans in the first place. It's the same reason that we look back on any historical figure. For example, Abraham Lincoln, who, when you look at the evidence, shared beds with men. I mean, there's a whole documentary you watch about it, but and I did a video about it.
Documentaries can be wrong, right? Documentaries are made by people, and people are wrong all of the time. And there are so many documentaries about Abe Lincoln that have no mention of him possibly being gay. Now, obviously, we don't know for sure if he was or wasn't. I will say, sleeping in the same bed as another man during those times in American history was a lot more normal, right? A lot of spaces that they went to didn't have as much room. And I also don't think sleeping with men had the same sort of stigma around it that it does today that sort of links you to being homosexual. I don't think it was as much of a thing back then.
We will never for sure know if Abraham Lincoln was gay, just like we'll never know that Kurt Cobain was trans. But it doesn't hurt to speculate. Who's it hurting? Certainly not Abraham Lincoln. Certainly not Kurt Cobain.
Not out of respect for his family.
What do you mean out of respect?
To speculate about their family member potentially being trans or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, with Abe Lincoln, it's a little more justifiable, I guess, because we're so far removed from him now. Like, the amount of people who knew him personally are very, very non-existent. I'm not saying that completely justifies it, but it is more justifiable in pretty much every sense of the word. Whereas Kurt Cobain, once again, there's very much family that still exists. There's still many fans of him that are, like, listening to the music or whatever that don't appreciate you speculating about him in that way. I'm not saying those fans are, like, particularly important in terms of, like, being able to dictate or tell you what you're allowed to do when it comes to talking about their hero. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that there are a lot of people whose feelings are going to be hurt by it. And I don't think it's a dick.
Here's the thing, friend. When we were talking specifically about Kurt Cobain and speculation and things that might affect Lil Ms. Frances Bean, that is, I don't know if this is still what Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love's daughter, I don't know if she still goes by Frances Bean, but that was the name she, you know. There are multiple documentaries about the conspiracy theory that Courtney Love had Kurt Cobain murdered. And no one, like, I have never not once heard a single person in reference to those things be like, well, what do you think about suggesting to their daughter that their mother might be a murderer? Right? Like, we can speculate about whether or not he committed suicide. We can speculate about whether or not his wife had him killed. All of that is totally fine to speculate about and not at all going to negatively impact the kid. Because I never hear anyone bitch about that. But this is a thing that I hear people complain about, and so like, hey Jesse, if you're watching this, what I'm sure you've heard people, if you have heard anything about Kurt Cobain, talk about this conspiracy theory, right? Like, and that's chill, and that's something that like, you don't think that might affect their daughter more than whether or not he was trans? But, let's go on.
Move or a bad thing necessarily to consider the feelings of the people that might be watching your video before you release it, which I'm sure Lilly does. Like, it's part of the game when it comes to rage bait and stuff. In fact, rage bait is literally considering those feelings to an extent higher than most people. It's just that you want those feelings to be negative. We wouldn't sit here and speculate about Kobe Bryant, for example, being gay. Like, that would be quite distasteful, or transgender. We wouldn't do that, would we? If I made a TikTok or a YouTube video being like, guys, Kobe Bryant, I think personally was actually gay, I'd get shit for it, like, and justifiably so, because it's not appropriate.
I think that's disrespectful to the family.
Well, to suggest that an implication that a deceased family member of yours might have been a certain way, specifically.
But if it could affect their image of how people look at them, per se,
yeah, it could.
That could be damaging to somebody's image. If it's your family, that
you say damaging. What about being trans is damaging?
That's a really, really sneaky, but also very disingenuous and bad argument from Lilly there. There's nothing necessary.
No, it is absolutely not sneaky, and it is absolutely not disingenuous. From a trans person looking you dead in the eye, this is not rage bait. This is me coming to you as a person who enjoys your content and thinks that you can take criticism well. It is not disingenuous, because the suggestion that if he might be trans is going to make people think negatively about him and somehow discount the music and the art that he put into the world, fuck them. They don't deserve it then. Because if that's all it takes to change your image of someone, right? Like, Lily is about to bring up left-handedness, I think, or I don't know. It's if we want to speculate about whether or not historical figures were left-handed, right? And to get back, this is obviously something that, like, the looking back at historical figures to try to decipher whether or not they were queer is something that has to be done, because throughout history, our history as queer people and trans people has been erased, has been whitewashed. The Abe Lincoln thing, it's not just that he shared beds with men, is that he shared a bed with the same man over and over and over and over again, and wrote him love letters and spent more time with that man than his wife. Like, there's more to it than what obviously you're aware of. And there's a lot of historical figures that, there are speculations made now based on historical records about gender, whatever. The video that Lilly Tino made referring to Kurt Cobain had reasons in it that she thought that he might be trans. She didn't pull that shit out of her ass. Kurt Cobain was it is common knowledge that he wore dresses on multiple occasions. He spoke about feeling comfortable wearing dresses. He spoke about gender, and this is a topic that he broached and very definitely had some kind of feelings about. And we're talking about someone who, this was the early 90s, and he had a wife and a child. Like, it's hard for people with a wife and a child to come out now, right? Like, it's so it is not disingenuous at all what she is saying. It is not rage bait. Like, we can talk about some of the other shit that Lilly Tino has done and whether or not that shit is rage bait. This is not. It's just not. And, like, if you hear nothing else, and I'm probably going to clip this part, because it's not rage bait. Like, it's true. We'll get back to
necessarily damaging about being trans. And I see what you're trying to do by implying that everybody who has a problem with what you did to Kurt Cobain and his name is inherently a transphobe, right? But it's not the fact that you're levying that they might be trans that's the problem. It's the fact that you're levying something that they very well probably were not. It's not the fact that they're trans, but it's the fact that they weren't trans, if that makes sense. There's nothing.
How do you know? Right? How do you know any more than she does? I mean, go Google Kurt Cobain in a dress right now and see how many different pictures you will find. You know, I get that it was the 90s and what, but like there weren't other grunge dudes wearing dresses. No one. And this was, very much a time of like the masculine men. Like, yeah, they all had long hair, but it was so they could fucking headbang. Like, it was like a bleed over from the metal shit. Like, I think that you're you're bumping up against this because you do, in fact, have some transphobia happening, man. Like, I don't think that it is something that is up front in your brain, but like, you very clearly think that there is something off, or, like the fact that you think that this could negatively impact someone's perception of Kurt Cobain. Like, why would it be a problem? Where is the problem? If Kurt Cobain was trans, where is the problem? Because if you're going to tell me that it is besmirching his name and we have to be concerned about the feelings of his family and blah, 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 what are we concerned about? What part of the reputation is being soured here? Because if it's not that there's something wrong with being trans, then what's the issue? Genuinely, what's the issue if that isn't it? Because you have no more evidence that Kurt Cobain was not trans than she has that he was. And I mean, quite frankly, we've got more in the category that he was than he wasn't, because the only, when we're in this speculation land and we're talking about periods of time which include up until today, that lots of people are cluttered out of fear, including people who are very, think about Caitlyn Jenner, man. Caitlyn Jenner was very much famous in the 90s and very like, and if you, know anything about Caitlyn Jenner's story, she started to transition at one point and then backed off. She was taking hormones decades before she came out and was still living as a dude. So, yeah, no. The suggestion that this is completely out of left field, no, bro, no. Just as someone who thinks that you are coming at this genuinely, I think that you are just missing the fucking mark, man. I think you are not seeing what it is that you're actually struggling with this idea. It bums me out. So, like, reconsider. At any rate, let me continue.
Damaging about being trans, but there is something damaging about being labeled as something that you were not.
Personal, like even if it wasn't you speculating about them being trans, but like,
What if I was speculating that Abraham Lincoln was a lefty and like used his left hand? Is that okay?
I don't know. I just feel like, and I don't want to say how I feel. Like, okay, I'm trying to keep how I feel out of it.
You can say I don't mind.
I want to keep my feelings out of it. Okay, let's continue to move on.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that left-handed argument. I feel like there's a line that's been crossed in between speculating upon whatever hand someone prefers as opposed to speculating on their sexuality or gender identity. I'm not sure exactly where that line is, but in between those two things, there is a line for sure.
That your content or
Why is there a line? That's what I want to know. Why is there a line? Where's the line? Where's the damage to the, explain it. Break it down. Because if you can't articulate it outside of, it's just because you think it's bad to be trans, there isn't another, like if it's just, I don't quite know, I can't quite put my finger on it, it's because it squicks you out. It's because you were raised in a society that is steeped in transphobia and homophobia. The UK, bro. Like, that's why we refer to England as Turf Island. Like Scotland is, I'm sure, not a huge lot better, man. So I don't, I believe you grew up in Scotland, right? The accent suggests to me, but I don't know where you were born. I don't, fuck if I know, bro.
any specific piece of content might have caused more harm than good?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Countless trans creators have spoken out against you and the way in which you choose to create your content. Is this not concerning to you?
Some of those trans creators like to misgender me. I think a big narrative that has been really front and center lately, and I think it's hard to talk about this without bringing this up, is that there is a conspiracy theory amongst trans creators specifically that I am not actually trans.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Well, I think it's important to get into in context of this question. So when I see a trans creator calling me Nick or calling me him, no, it stings to see it, but like, how can I take that person seriously?
I don't know. I just feel like there's like such a sheer volume of people. Like recently, as we've gotten closer into this, I've done a lot of like watching, you know, and scrolling. Seems like there's such like a huge variety. It's not even just those ones that are like singling you out or only basing their platforms off of you. You know, there's so many like offshoot trans creators, little creators. Like it seems like there's a fairly large amount of them.
I'd say a lot of those little creators, I'm not saying all of them, obviously, but a lot of those little creators are probably just trying to piggyback off of Lilly Tino's name because making videos on her gets a lot of views. Now, I will say, you can definitely want to get views, but also want to say something genuine about the conversation and be a part of it as well. I mean, that is kind of what I'm doing right now, right? I'm making a video, and if I knew this video on Lilly Tino would get 5k views, I wouldn't do it. But that doesn't mean that I don't care about the things that I'm talking about either.
They aren't specifically like...
Just to put a pin in that and the seriousness of the shit that I was saying a couple minutes ago about the speculating about Kurt Cobain's situation, and that is the thing that got me to go, no, I have to make a video about this. I get like sometimes 15 views on a video. If I break into the triple digits, it's, you know, my God, if I break 1,000, it's a fucking miracle, right? I am not monetized, nowhere near monetized, have no intention. This is purely just because, you know, love of the game. I like to yap. I like to listen to my own yapping back. I watch my own videos. You know, it helps me to process my thoughts and feelings about things. So, like, I am doing this in the hopes that I can get you to understand where I'm coming from and to change your perspective in a way that is open and to your audience. Because I think that you're, like, so close to being, you know, an advocate. Don't mind the thumbnail with the weasel. I just thought the picture of you holding the ferret was incredibly cute, and it would be fun to make a silly weasel joke.